Clara Evans stood in the blistering Afghanistan desert, her hands gripping a sleek, code-breaking device, sweat tracing paths down her dust-streaked face as gunfire roared in the distance. The eagle tattoo on her back flickered briefly as her uniform shifted. Branded an outsider by her own team, she never dreamed a single radio signal could rewrite her fate. Yet when a SEAL colonel raised his hand in a salute, and the entire unit fell silent, a hidden truth from her Vietnam veteran father shocked the world. How did a scorned female sailor earn the respect of the bravest warriors? Join Clara's journey, a tale of grit and justice. In the heart of Camp Pendleton, California, 2025, Clara Evans worked in a cramped office that hummed with the pulse of electronics. The air carried the sharp tang of machine oil mingling with the faint static of radios flickering on her desk. Her blonde hair pulled into a tight bun gleamed under fluorescent lights, and her green eyes, sharp as a hawk's, scanned a circuit board with quiet precision. As she leaned forward, the bald eagle tattoo on her upper back peeked out a silent emblem of her unspoken dreams. On her finger, a silver ring engraved with resilient caught the light, a gift from her father, a Vietnam War veteran whose memory anchored her every move. Clara was an electronic warfare specialist, a master at intercepting and decoding enemy signals, her fingers dancing over oscilloscopes and spectrum analyzers with an artist's grace. Yet to her male teammates, she was just the office girl. Sergeant Ryan Carter, a towering figure with a smirk that cut deeper than words, would lean against her doorframe tossing barbs. "Nice work with the gadgets, Evans," he'd say, "but don't dream of playing SEAL." His words stung, echoing the doubts that gnawed at Clara's heart. She'd bite her lip, forcing a steady hand as she soldered a wire, determined to prove her worth. At 28, Clara carried a wound heavier than Carter's taunts. When she was 16, her father Daniel Evans took his life broken by the unseen scars of PTSD from Vietnam. He'd been her hero, a signalman who taught her the magic of radios in their Texas garage. Under a dim bulb, 10-year-old Clara would watch him twist dials, his voice steady as he explained, "The signal never dies if you don't give up." Those words were her lifeline, now etched into her soul as deeply as the ink of her eagle tattoo. In her locker, she kept his faded letter yellowed with age, describing a life-saving signal he'd sent during the war, a story he never fully shared. Each day, Clara walked through Pendleton's gates, her crisp navy uniform a shield against the sidelong glances of her peers. The base buzzed with the disciplined chaos of SEAL training shouts, of drills, the thud of boots on sand. She'd pause sometimes, watching the elite warriors move with lethal precision, their world so distant from her own. Yet her work was no less vital. A single missed signal could cost lives, a lesson her father drilled into her. Signals are the heartbeat of a mission. He'd set his eyes distant with memories of jungles and gunfire. Clara clung to that duty, pouring her grief into every circuit she fixed, every code she cracked. But the weight of being underestimated pressed harder each day. At a team briefing, Carter's voice boomed over hers, dismissing her analysis of a signal intercept. "Stick to the tech, Evans," he scoffed as others chuckled. Clara's cheeks burned, but she held her head high, her ring glinting as she gripped her notes. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for her father's legacy, for the little girl who believed she could make a difference. In her quiet moments, she'd trace the words of his letter. "One signal can change everything." She didn't know it yet, but a mission was coming, one that would unravel a secret from her father's past and test her courage like never before. The briefing room at Camp Pendleton buzzed with tension, the air thick with the scent of coffee and the low hum of a projector casting maps on the wall. Clara Evans sat at the edge, her crisp navy uniform a stark contrast to the battle-worn gear of the SEALs around her. Her blonde bun was tight. Her green eyes locked on Colonel James Harper, a grizzled leader whose voice cut through the room like a blade. "We've got a mission," he said, pointing to a satellite image of an Afghan desert stronghold. "The enemy's planning a terrorist strike on a civilian town. Their communication network is the key. We shut it down. We save lives." Clara's heart raced as Harper's gaze landed on her. "Evans, you're our code breaker. Your signal jamming skills are unmatched, but this is a war zone, not a workshop. We need warriors, not technicians. Don't let me down." His words were a challenge, heavy with skepticism. Clara's fingers tightened around the silver ring on her hand, the word resilient etched into it, a reminder of her father's voice. "The signal never dies if you don't give up." She nodded, her jaw set, but doubt gnawed at her. Failure could cement the whispers that women didn't belong in this world. Her task was daunting: design a portable device to jam enemy signals across a 5-mile radius, built to withstand Afghanistan's brutal sandstorms and 120-degree heat. In her cramped office, Clara worked late into the night, the glow of her computer screen illuminating her eagle tattoo as she hunched over a prototype. The device, a sleek metal box with a foldable antenna, hummed with promise. Its circuits a blend of cutting-edge tech and her father's old-school signal tricks. She tested it relentlessly, imagining the lives depending on its success: families in that Afghan town, SEALs in the field, her father's legacy. But the weight of prejudice pressed harder. At a team huddle, Sergeant Ryan Carter leaned in, his smirk sharp. "Hope you're ready, office girl," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "This isn't a place for amateurs." Clara's cheeks flushed, but she held his gaze, her ring glinting as she clenched her fist. She was honored to be chosen, yet terrified that one mistake could prove Carter right, branding her as the weak link. In a quiet moment, she pulled her father's faded letter from her pocket, tracing his words about a life-saving signal from Vietnam. A cryptic phrase caught her eye: "The code holds the truth." What did he mean? Clara didn't know it yet, but this mission would thrust her into a world of danger and unravel a secret that could change everything. Could she crack the code, or would the weight of prejudice break her first? Clara Evans sat alone in her dimly lit office at Camp Pendleton, the hum of radios fading into the background as her heart pounded. The weight of Colonel Harper's words, "Don't let me down," echoed in her mind, but so did her fear. What if she failed? What if one mistake in the Afghan desert branded her a failure, proving the whispers that women didn't belong in the SEALs world? Her green eyes flickered with doubt as she stared at her father's silver ring, its resilient engraving glinting faintly. She could almost hear the laughter, the jeers, the confirmation of every stereotype she'd fought against. Sergeant Ryan Carter's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp and mocking as he loomed in the doorway. "Think you can handle SEAL work, Evans?" he sneered, arms crossed. "Your dad might have been a hero, but you're no warrior. Stick to fixing printers." His words sliced deep, hitting the wound of her father's loss. Clara's cheeks burned, her fist clenching to hide her trembling. She wanted to snap back to prove him wrong, but the fear of failing her father's legacy held her tongue. She could walk away, stay safe in her office, and let someone else take the mission. It would be easier. But then her gaze fell to the faded letter tucked in her pocket, her father's handwriting worn but clear. "The code holds the truth. The signal never dies if you don't give up." She remembered his steady hands guiding hers over a radio in their Texas garage, his voice calm despite the shadows of Vietnam in his eyes. He'd lost everything to PTSD, but he'd given her this, his belief, his strength. Clara traced the ring, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't let Carter's taunts or her own doubts bury her father's legacy. She'd take the mission no matter the cost. But as she steeled herself, Clara had no idea that a figure from her father's past was about to step into her life, changing everything. Clara Evans hunched over a malfunctioning signal jammer in her Pendleton office, the hum of electronics, a familiar comfort against the sting of doubt. Her green eyes narrowed fingers deftly rewiring circuits as the eagle tattoo on her back shifted with her movements. She'd just resolved to take on the Afghan mission, but the weight of Sergeant Carter's taunts, "Your dad was a hero, but you're no warrior," still echoed. Then a shadow fell across her desk. Chief Petty Officer Maya Torres stood there, her weathered face etched with stories of Vietnam, her eyes warm with recognition. "You're Daniel Evans's daughter, Maya," said her voice steady. "I served with him in '70. He saved our platoon by cracking an enemy code under fire." Clara froze, her father's silver ring glinting on her finger. Maya sat, pulling a worn photo from her pocket, her father young and focused, hunched over a radio in a jungle outpost. "Your dad said, 'Signals are life. Keep them alive, and you keep hope alive,'" Maya continued. "He'd be proud of you, Clara. Trust your skills. You're more than they think." Her words lit a spark in Clara's heart, easing the fear that she'd fail her father's legacy. Maya handed her a sealed letter, her father's handwriting faint but unmistakable. "He left this with me," she said. "It talks about a signal secret he never shared. Read it when you're ready." As Maya left, Lieutenant Michael Reed, a young SEAL with a quiet intensity, stepped into the office. The team's signal jammer had failed during a drill, and others had struggled for hours. Clara focused, traced the fault to a fried capacitor, and fixed it in 10 minutes, her hands steady as the device hummed back to life. Reed's eyes widened. "That's unreal, Evans," he said, a grin breaking through. "They're wrong about you." His support, unexpected and genuine, felt like a lifeline amid Carter's sneers and the team's sidelong glances. Clara tucked her father's letter into her pocket, its weight both a comfort and a mystery. The code holds the truth he'd written. What truth? As she prepared for the mission, Clara felt a dirge of resolve bolstered by Maya's wisdom and Reed's faith. But she didn't know a figure from her father's past had set her on a path to unravel a secret that could change everything. Would it guide her through the storm ahead? Keep watching to see Clara turn prejudice into power. Clara Evans stepped onto the helicopter at Camp Pendleton, her heart pounding as the rotor blades roared, slicing through the dawn air. Her blonde bun was tight beneath her helmet, green eyes wide with a mix of fear and resolve. The silver ring on her finger, engraved with resilient, felt heavier than ever, anchoring her to her father's words. The signal never dies if you don't give up. As the chopper lifted off carrying her and the SEAL team toward Afghanistan, the familiar hum of her office radios faded, replaced by the oppressive heat of the desert and the distant crack of gunfire. She was no longer the office girl, she was stepping into a war zone. Clutched in her hands was her custom code-breaking device, a sleek metal box with a foldable antenna built to jam enemy signals across a 5-mile radius. Its sand-resistant casing, inspired by her father's old-school tricks, and modern tech, like the AN/PRC 152 radio, gleamed under the Afghan sun. Clara's eagle tattoo shifted as she adjusted her gear, a silent vow of strength. Colonel Harper's voice cut through the chopper's din, sharp and commanding. "Stay back, Evans," he barked. "This is a SEAL mission, not a tech demo." His skepticism stung, echoing Sergeant Carter's taunts. Carter, seated across from her, shot a smirk. "Don't break your toy out there, princess," he said loud enough for the team to hear. Clara's jaw tightened, but she met his gaze, refusing to flinch. The helicopter landed in a swirl of dust, and Clara's boots hit the scorching sand. The desert stretched endlessly, its heat a suffocating weight, broken only by the crackle of gunfire and the faint buzz of her device. For the first time, she faced the chaos of war explosions in the distance, SEALs moving with lethal precision. Fear clawed at her, but Maya's words rang in her mind. Signals are life. Keep them alive, and you keep hope alive. Clara powered on her device, its screen glowing as it scanned for enemy signals. Lieutenant Reed, the young SEAL who'd seen her skill, watched closely. "What's the eagle mean?" he asked, nodding at the tattoo peeking from her collar. Clara hesitated, then said, "Freedom. My father's dream for me." Reed nodded, a spark of respect in his eyes. As the team advanced toward the enemy stronghold, Clara tested her device under the blazing sun, her fingers dancing over its controls. The antenna locked onto a faint signal confirming its range, but Carter's voice hissed nearby. "Hope. You're ready to run back to Pendleton when that thing fails." Clara ignored him, clutching her father's letter in her pocket, its cryptic words. The code holds the truth burning in her mind. She was in the heart of danger. Now, her device, her only weapon. Could it, and her father's truth, survive the desert's wrath, keep watching to see Clara prove her place among warriors? The Afghan desert stretched endlessly before Clara Evans, its heat a relentless hammer pounding her resolve. Her boots sank into scorching sand as she moved with the SEAL team, her custom code-breaking device strapped to her side, its sleek metal casing glinting under the merciless sun. The eagle tattoo on her back felt alive, a pulse of strength beneath her sweat-soaked uniform. But the war zone's chaos, distant explosions, the crack of sniper fire tested her courage. She gripped her silver ring engraved with resilient, whispering her father's words. "The signal never dies if you don't give up." Clara was no longer in the safety of Pendleton's office. She was in the heart of battle, and every move counted. Their first test came swiftly. As the team set up a forward position, Clara's device faltered, its antenna clogged with fine desert sand. The screen flickered, signal bars dropping. Colonel Harper's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. "Fix it, Evans. We can't afford delays. Sergeant Ryan Carter, ever." The Thorn scoffed loudly. "Told you she'd choke. Just luck she got this far." Clara's cheeks burned, but her green eyes stayed locked on the device. Kneeling in the sand, she pried open the casing, her fingers dancing over wires. Using a makeshift brush from her kit, she cleared the antenna, recalibrating it with a technique her father taught her. Frequency hopping to stabilize the signal. The device hummed back to life, locking onto enemy frequencies. Lieutenant Michael Reed, watching closely, nodded. "That was no luck," he said, his voice carrying over Carter's sneer. "That's skill." But the desert gave no reprieve. Hours later, as the team advanced through a narrow ravine, enemy gunfire erupted in ambush. Bullets ricocheted off rocks, and Harper barked orders to take cover. The enemy was calling for reinforcements, their radios crackling with coded signals. Clara crouched behind a boulder, her device glowing in the dusk. Her heart raced, fear clawing at her, but Maya's words echoed. "Signals are life. Keep them alive." With steady hands, she adjusted the device, sending a jamming pulse that scrambled the enemy's frequencies. The radio chatter died, reinforcements cut off. The SEALs counterattacked, securing the ravine. Reed clapped her shoulder, grinning. "You just saved our hides, Evans." But Carter's voice cut through. "She slowed us down. We'd be faster without her." His words sowed doubt among some SEALs, their glances sharp with suspicion. Back at camp, Clara's resolve wavered under Carter's relentless barbs. She sat alone, rechecking her device under a flickering lantern. Reed approached, his voice low. "Don't let him get to you. The team saw what you did." He shared her repair feat with the others, earning nods from a few, but Carter's influence lingered, his whispers turning allies into skeptics. Then a message arrived from Chief Petty Officer Maya Torres at Pendleton, a video sent via secure link. Maya's weathered face filled the screen, her voice firm. "Your father saved us in Vietnam by never giving up. Honor him, Clara. You're his signal now." The words reignited Clara's fire, her fingers tracing the eagle tattoo as she tucked her father's letter closer. But a new challenge emerged. As Clara analyzed the enemy's intercepted signals, a faint, irregular pulse caught her attention. An odd signal not from the enemy, but within U.S. channels. It was structured deliberate, like a code her father might have known. A traitor in the military. Her pulse quickened, but she confided only in Reed. Her voice hushed. "Something's wrong. Someone's leaking our moves." Reed's eyes darkened, promising to watch her back. The letter in her pocket seemed heavier, its cryptic phrase. The code holds the truth burning in her mind. What was this strange signal? Could Clara uncover the truth before it endangered the team? Keep watching to see her face the desert's deadliest trials. The Afghan night swallowed Clara Evans and the SEAL team as they descended into the enemy's underground fortress, a labyrinth of cold stone and flickering shadows. The air was thick with dust, the distant thud of explosions vibrating through the walls. Clara's boots echoed on the rocky floor, her custom code-breaking device strapped to her side, its antenna folded tight against the sand-worn casing. Her blonde bun strained under her helmet, green eyes darting as she scanned for threats. The eagle tattoo on her back felt like a pulse of defiance urging her forward, but the weight of her father's silver ring, engraved with resilient, grounded her, his words echoing. "The signal never dies if you don't give up." The fortress was a beast, its communication network guarded by a complex encryption system that pulsed through hidden wires. Clara's device hummed, detecting signals, but her heart sank. The code structure was eerily familiar substitution ciphers, like those her father cracked in Vietnam's jungles. She remembered his stories whispered in their Texas garage under the hum of an ANPRC-25 radio. The code is the enemy's heart. Break it and you save lives. Now, with only 30 minutes before the enemy could call for reinforcements, Clara had to break this code under fire. The SEALs moved silently, their rifles raised, but the air crackled with tension. Colonel Harper's voice was a low growl. "Evans, get that signal down. We're counting on you." His eyes held a flicker of doubt, cutting deeper than she'd admit. Clara crouched in a shadowed alcove, her device's screen casting a faint glow in the near darkness. Gunfire erupted above enemy shouts, echoing through the tunnels. Her fingers flew over the controls, analyzing patterns, but the code shifted, resisting her every move. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her pulse racing as the clock ticked down. Then disaster struck. An IED detonated nearby, the blast shaking the walls. A SEAL Petty Officer Daniels fell, clutching a wounded leg. Sergeant Ryan Carter spun on Clara, his face twisted with rage. "Your tech's slowing us down, Evans," he barked loud enough for the team to hear. "We're sitting ducks because of you." The accusation hit like a punch, and Clara's resolve wavered. Doubt flooded her. Maybe Carter was right. Maybe she didn't belong here. She clutched her father's ring, its cool metal steadying her trembling hands. In a flash, she was back in that Texas garage, 10 years old, her father's voice calm as he guided her through a cipher. "Focus, Clara," he'd said, his eyes haunted but kind. "The code holds the truth." That phrase from his letter burned in her mind, now urging her to push on. But the team's eyes were on her, some skeptical, others desperate. Lieutenant Michael Reed crouched beside her, his voice low. "You've got this, Evans. I've seen what you can do." His faith, a fragile lifeline, pulled her back from the edge. Clara reset her device, her fingers tracing the familiar patterns of her father's techniques. The enemy's signal flickered, But time was running out. Could she crack the code before the fortress became their tomb? Keep watching to see Clara face her deadliest trial yet. Deep within the enemy's underground fortress, Clara Evans crouched in a shadowed alcove, the air heavy with dust and the deafening roar of gunfire. The SEAL team was pinned down, their radios silent, cut off from the world above. Her custom code-breaking device, its sleek metal casing scarred by sand, flickered uselessly, its screen dark. The enemy had shifted their encryption, a new labyrinthine code, locking the team in a stone tomb. Bullets ricocheted off walls, and Colonel Harper's voice crackled through the chaos. "Evans, get that signal down now, or we're done." His eyes burned with urgency, but Sergeant Ryan Carter's sneer cut deeper. "Told you she'd fail us," he spat, his words echoing in the tunnel. Clara's heart pounded, her hands trembling as fear clawed at her. They were trapped, and time was bleeding away. Her green eyes, sharp as ever, locked onto her device, its faint glow, the only light in the darkness. The eagle tattoo on her back seemed to pulse, urging her to fight. She clutched her father's silver ring, its resilient engraving cool against her skin, and his words flooded back. "The code is the enemy's heart. Break it and you save lives." In that Texas garage under the hum of an ANPRC-25 radio, her father had taught her to crack ciphers by hand, his voice steady despite Vietnam's shadows. Now, with 30 minutes until enemy reinforcements arrived, Clara had no tech to lean on. She pulled a crumpled notebook from her pack, her pen scratching furiously as she mapped the code's patterns under flickering light. Gunfire roared closer, and Carter's voice hissed again. "You're wasting our time, Evans. We're dead because of you." Clara's hands shook, but her mind sharpened, recalling her father's manual technique. Substitution ciphers. Patterns hidden in chaos. She traced the signals, her pen a lifeline, as bullets sparked around her. A memory flashed, her father in 1970, hunched over a radio, in a jungle decoding under fire to save his platoon. "The code holds the truth," he'd written. Clara's breath caught as the enemy's code began to unravel its structure, mirroring the Vietnam-era ciphers he'd mastered. With seconds to spare, she cracked at her device, springing to life. A jamming pulse surged, silencing the enemy's radios. The SEALs fired back, regaining ground, their path to escape clear. But Clara's work wasn't done. The cracked signal revealed a chilling plan, an imminent attack on a nearby civilian town, thousands of lives at stake. She relayed the intel to Harper, her voice steady. "We've stopped their attack, sir." The team paused, catching their breath, and Lieutenant Michael Reed's eyes met hers, filled with awe. "You did it, Evans," he said, his voice cutting through Carter's silence. But Clara's mind reeled. The enemy's code. It was identical to one her father broke in Vietnam, a haunting echo of his letter's cryptic phrase. "The code holds the truth." How could this be? Was it chance or something deeper tied to his legacy? As the SEALs prepared to move, Clara tucked the notebook away, her heart racing with questions. She'd saved the team and a town, but the truth of her father's past loomed larger than ever. What did this code reveal about him? Keep watching to see Clara uncover the secrets, that the air in the underground fortress was thick with dust and the fading echoes of gunfire, as Clara Evans and the SEAL team emerged from the shadows. Her code-breaking device, its screen still glowing faintly, had silenced the enemy's radios, opening a path to freedom. The team stumbled into the Afghan night, their breaths, heavy faces etched with exhaustion and relief. Clara's blonde bun was frayed, her green eyes bright with a mix of triumph and disbelief. Her eagle tattoo, barely visible under her torn uniform, felt like a badge of survival. She clutched her father's silver ring, its resilient engraving warm against her skin. His words echoing, "The code holds the truth." She'd done it. She'd saved the team, and a civilian town from disaster. Colonel James Harper, his stern face softened by the moonlight, turned to Clara. "Good work, Evans," he said, his voice gruff but genuine, a crack in his wall of skepticism. The words hit her like a lifeline, easing the sting of his earlier doubts. Lieutenant Michael Reed, standing nearby, clapped her shoulder, his grin wide. "You didn't just save us. You saved thousands," he said. Loud enough for the team to hear. A few SEALs nodded, their eyes shifting from doubt to respect. But Sergeant Ryan Carter stood apart, his arms crossed, his sneer sharp. "Lucky break," he muttered loud enough to sow seeds of doubt. "Don't get cocky, Evans." His hostility lingered, a dark cloud over Clara's victory, but she held her head high, her ring glinting as she steadied her breath. Back at their makeshift camp, a secure message arrived from Chief Petty Officer Maya Torres at Pendleton. Clara opened it under a flickering lantern, her heart racing. Maya's weathered handwriting filled a digital letter, her words piercing the night. "Your manual code breaking, it was your father's technique, Clara. In '70, he cracked a Viet Cong cipher under fire, saving our platoon. You're his signal now." The letter ended with a line that brought tears to Clara's eyes. "You are his truth." She traced the words, her father's NPRC 25 radio flashing in her mind, a memory of him in their Texas garage, teaching her to find patterns in chaos. The code she'd broken in the fortress was no coincidence. It was a thread tying her to his legacies, a truth she was only beginning to unravel. But the victory was bittersweet. As Clara analyzed the intercepted signals, that strange pulse, the odd signal from U.S. channels, resurfaced. It wasn't enemy chatter. It was deliberate, structured, like a traitor's whisper. Her pulse quickened as she recognized its pattern, eerily similar to the Vietnam-era code her father had cracked. Was someone in the team leaking their moves? She confided in Reed, her voice low under the desert stars. "This signal's coming from our side," she said, her green eyes narrowing. "Someone's betraying us." Reed's face darkened, his loyalty unwavering. "We'll find them, Evans, together." The team around them was quiet, some now looking to Clara, with newfound respect, others still swayed by Carter's doubts. Clara tucked her father's letter closer, its cryptic warning. The code holds the truth burning brighter. She'd saved the day, but the traitor's shadow loomed. Could she unmask them before it was too late? Keep watching to see Clara face the final truth. The Afghan desert stretched like an endless furnace, its sand glowing under a merciless moon as Clara Evans and the SEAL team trekked toward safety. Their boots crunched in rhythm, carrying critical intelligence from the enemy fortress. Clara's code-breaking device hung heavy at her side, its metal casing scarred but intact, a testament to her triumph. Her blonde bun was dusted with sand, her green eyes sharp despite exhaustion. The eagle tattoo on her back pulsed with quiet defiance, and her father's silver ring engraved with resilient gleamed as she gripped her gear. His words echoed in her mind. The code holds the truth, but the mission wasn't over, and danger still lurked in the shadows. As the team navigated a rocky pass, Clara's device flickered, its screen dimming as sand clogged its circuits. The signal to their rescue helicopter wavered, threatening to strand them. Colonel Harper's voice snapped through the night. "Evans, get that thing working or we're stuck." Sergeant Ryan Carter seized the moment, his sneer venomous. "Your toy's useless, Evans," he hissed loud enough for the team to hear. "Should have stayed in your office." His words stung, reigniting Clara's doubts. Her hands shook as she knelt in the sand, the wind howling around her. Bullets could find them any moment, and the team's eyes were on her, some trusting, others skeptical. Clara's fingers moved with desperate precision, prying open the device's casing under the faint glow of her flashlight. Sand had jammed the antenna's pivot, a common flaw in desert ops. She recalled her father's lessons, his calm voice in their Texas garage. The signal never dies if you don't give up. Brushing away the grit, she recalibrated the antenna, her movement steady despite Carter's glare. "You're wasting our time," he spat. Clara met his eyes, her voice cutting through the wind. "The signal never dies, and neither do I." The device hummed back to life, its signal locking onto the rescue chopper's frequency. Harper nodded sharply, and the team exhaled, their lifeline restored. But as they moved forward, Clara's heart sank. That strange signal, the odd pulse from U.S. channels, flared again on her device, sharp and deliberate. It wasn't enemy chatter. It was a traitor's whisper, using a structure hauntingly similar to her father's Vietnam-era codes. Her suspicion locked onto Carter. His hostility, too, pointed his actions too disruptive. She confided in Lieutenant Michael Reed, under the desert stars, her voice low. "Someone's leaking our position. I think it's him." Reed's jaw tightened, his loyalty unwavering. "We'll watch him, Evans. Stay sharp." The team marched on, unaware of the shadow within. Clara clutched her father's letter, its cryptic phrase. "The code holds the truth," burning brighter. She'd saved their signal, but a traitor threatened everything. Could she expose them before it was too late? Keep watching to see Clara unmask the enemy within. Under the Afghan moon, Clara Evans sat in the SEAL team's makeshift camp, the desert's chill seeping through her sand-dusted uniform. Her code-breaking device glowed faintly, its screen alive with data, as she analyzed the strange signal that had haunted her since the fortress. Her blonde bun was loose green eyes, sharp with focus. The eagle tattoo on her back, a quiet emblem of her resolve. The silver ring on her finger, engraved with resilient, anchored her to her father's words. "The code holds the truth." She'd saved the team, stopped a civilian attack, but the odd signal, deliberate pulsing from U.S. channels, still whispered of betrayal. Her heart raced. Someone in the team was a traitor, and the truth was close. Clara's fingers traced patterns on her notebook, the signal's structure revealing itself. It wasn't random. It was a coded transmission, using a Vietnam-era cipher her father had cracked in 1970. Her breath caught as she cross-referenced the data. The signal's frequency matched encrypted bursts sent during their mission, timed with Sergeant Ryan Carter's movements. Carter, the man who'd mocked her, questioned her every step, had been leaking their position to the enemy. Her hands trembled, but her resolve hardened. She stood clutching her father's letter, its cryptic phrase burning. The code holds the truth. She had to confront him now before the team moved out. In the camp's dim light, Clara faced the SEALs, her voice steady but fierce. "Carter's the traitor," she said, holding up her device. His signals match encrypted leaks to the enemy. The team froze, eyes darting between her and Carter, his face twisted, his sneer gone. "You're out of your depth, Evans," he spat, stepping forward. "Prove it." Clara didn't flinch, displaying the signal logs, timestamps aligning with his radio checks, a pattern no one else could have sent. Lieutenant Michael Reed stepped beside her, his voice firm. "She's right. I saw her analyze it." The evidence was undeniable. Carter lunged, but Harper's hand shot up. "Stand down," he barked. Military police emerged, cuffing Carter as he glared at Clara, his betrayal exposed. The camp fell silent, the weight of Clara's triumph settling over the team. Colonel Harper turned to her, his stern face softening. He raised his hand in a slow, deliberate salute, his eyes meeting hers with respect. The entire unit followed their silence, a powerful tribute. Clara's heart swelled, her eagle tattoo, a pulse of pride beneath her uniform. She'd not only saved the mission, but unmasked a traitor. As Carter was led away, Clara's thoughts turned to her father. The traitor's signal, identical to his Vietnam code, was no coincidence. In that Texas garage, he'd taught her to see truth in chaos, and now she'd honored him. Maya's words echoed, "You are his signal." But questions lingered. Why had Carter betrayed them? How was his code tied to her father's past? Clara tucked her father's letter closer, its truth now her own. She'd triumphed, proving her place among warriors, but the desert held more secrets. What lay ahead for her? Keep watching to see Clara carry her father's legacy forward. Clara Evans stood on the wind-swept beach of Camp Pendleton, the Pacific Ocean, stretching before her like a canvas of endless possibility. The sun dipped low, casting golden rays across her blonde hair, now loose from its tight bun, and her green eyes shimmered with quiet pride. Her eagle tattoo, a symbol of freedom etched on her back, caught the fading light, while her father's silver ring engraved with resilient gleamed on her finger. She'd returned from the Afghan desert, not just a sailor, but a warrior who'd unmasked a traitor and saved countless lives. Her father's words echoed softly. The code holds the truth. She'd found that truth, and it had changed her forever. At a small ceremony on the base, Colonel James Harper pinned a Navy Commendation Medal to Clara's uniform, his stern face breaking into a rare smile. "You've earned this, Evans," he said. His voice carrying the weight of respect. The SEALs who once doubted her stood tall, their eyes reflecting newfound admiration. Clara's heart swelled, but it was a letter from her mother slipped into her hand that morning that brought tears to her eyes. "Your father would be so proud," it read. "He saved lives with his signals, and now you carry his light." Clara traced the words, remembering the Texas garage, where her father taught her to chase signals through the static of an AN/PRC-25 radio. His legacy wasn't just in the codes he cracked. It was in her courage, her refusal to give up. Clara's triumph in Afghanistan had rippled beyond the battlefield. She was appointed technical advisor for SEAL teams nationwide, her expertise now shaping missions across the globe. But the strange signal tied to her father's Vietnam-era code lingered in her mind. Her mother's letter hinted at an unfinished story, a mission her father never spoke of, betrayed by a traitor he couldn't unmask. Clara vowed to uncover that truth, to write a book honoring his legacy, a beacon for others to find their strength. Standing on the beach, she felt the weight of her journey from an office girl to a hero who'd silenced doubters and saved lives. Every signal matters, and so does every person, no matter who they are. As the waves crashed, Clara's radio crackled with a new mission, call its urgency pulling her back to the fight. She smiled, her ring glinting, ready for what lay ahead. Her father's voice whispered one last time, "The signal never dies." Clara's story is a testament to resilience, proof that courage can rewrite any destiny. Share her journey to inspire others to stand tall against doubt and injustice. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of unsung heroes who light the way.